episode 4, and I am so happy for who has joined me today. Danielle, Jami, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really happy to have you both. I know that in these times we are trying to reach out some way, and hopefully we can reach out and have some fun with everyone, and giving them some opinions and give them some fun topics too. So thank you very much for joining me.
Great to be here.
So let's let's kind of go into where we're going right now with the topics of the day. A lot of film delays, of course. We talked a lot about those, but really the one thing I want to talk about right now, because it launched yesterday, is your general thoughts on Quibi. What do you guys think about Quibi? This new thing, it's 10 minutes at a time. It's one of those things where, as much as I'd love to enjoy it, I watched a little bit of it, and 10 minutes at a time is very clipped. It's hard to move a story ahead. I know some of them do it better than others. I'll start with you, Danielle.
Well, when it comes to Quibi, I mean, I'm one of those that's old school. Like, I believe in watching either on the big screen or at least on my TV. I've just never been able to get into watching YouTube videos on my phone, movies on my phone, TV shows on my phone, because I shouldn't have to squint to see the picture.
I understand that, and when I first watched it, actually, I was watching it in the vertical format, and I was my first thought was, why is Will Forte, like, they've only shown Will Forte, they're not showing anything else, and then I go, oh yeah, I can turn it horizontal, and so I see the big picture then, but the picture doesn't seem to be the issue with me. It seems to be how much story we can fit into this little picture. So, well, what's your thoughts, Jami?
I mean, I totally agree with Danielle. I'm old school too. I think I might be too old for the demographic that they're looking for. I don't mind watching things on my phone. I mean, I've watched full movies on my phone. I mean, on iPod minis, going way back. I mean, the screen was like this big. I remember watching the complete Juno, like, on a screen that big. And
was that on an airplane, or is that like by choice on a couch at home?
I was on the 405. I was stuck in traffic. I watched all of Juno on like a Friday afternoon.
You take what you can get there. I get that.
So I don't mind watching it on a small screen. That doesn't bother me. It's more of the, I don't want to be one of these older guys who's like, 10 minutes, that's a stupid idea for the kids. I get it. Like, the attention span is smaller. It could work for a generation. I just don't think, I'm not really excited about watching 10-minute shows and then got to flip to the next show and find another show. I mean, you could probably binge a whole season in an hour, right?
Yeah, I think you can. I think that's one of the things that I guess they want to do, but what their promise was, from what I understand from the CEO, is the fact that they are going to provide like 30 hours of programming every week or something like that.
Right. They've got an insane list of talent and content that they're creating. So I think it could be good. I just don't see them competing with Netflix or Amazon or something like that, or even Disney Plus at this point. I mean, I wonder if they're just trying to compete with YouTube.
Well, and I think that is where it's at. It's a short-term viewing, high return value that is really what they're aiming at, because what are you going to do with, a 10-minute cooking show if it takes more than that to cook the food? You have to cut up into multiple things, which in, my cynical way is me seeing them create more ad value by adding more ads you have to watch per episode before each episode starts.
Right.
And so you're like, well, instead of this 1 30-minute video podcast with one video at the front, now you have one that's cut up into 3, and you have 3 different ad spots now. So I look at that
to advertise advertising.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They're saying they're not, but everyone who says they're not makes me even more cynical. Like, if you're more upfront about it, I mean, that's our issue right now with Facebook. If someone would have came up and said, look, you love Facebook, would you pay $5 a month to use Facebook and not have us steal all your information and all the things you do and who you are? Because that's what it's worth to us. And most of us would have been said, like, yeah, that's fine. Give us, it's $8 a year or something, and that's what we'll pay, and that's what this, our information to keep it from everyone else is worth. But no one did that, so now we have to kind of guess and wonder where our information is going, and who has it and what they're going to use it for. So,
well, The one variable with Quibi, I would say, is Katzenberg. I mean, I wouldn't bet against them.
No,
So-
and that's I think that's where the content is coming in, and
Yeah.
that's why all the big people are coming in, like the WalMarts and the other huge Pepsi and everything. Like they're already on board before this thing launched. I'm actually talking to the CEO later today, and she when she first started, she says there's gonna be 175 original shows, which is up to 8,000 short episodes, 3 hours of new stuff every week. And they're saying $5 a month as well. So $5 a month plus ads. And then $8 a month if you don't want ads. So my thing is right now, first of all, I have to see what's really there, what's of value to me, and if they deliver it. And the other thing that I really need to find out is, is that worth what it was supposed to be worth now in this day and age, where we've gotten so much streaming thrown at us because we're all quarantined. We've gotten a lot of opportunities and things they've kind of bundled up and made because the market now is fighting for us in home so hard. And so when it comes to that, I see us all getting, Hulu and, our Disney Plus and Netflix, who is, everyone is pushing stuff out so frequently now that we have a deluge of in-home content. And so it's really kind of up in the air for me. What's gonna where my money's gonna go, or where money should go, I guess.
It seems like they're doubling down on this phone thing, and I'm not sure is that the future now, the phone. Like
every Star Trek says it is
big screen. Like I don't know if that's the future anymore. It seems It seems like they're taking a step back. I don't know.
Yeah, but you know what really holds it for me is. When's the last time you saw Star Trek and someone had a 2,000-inch TV?
Well, yeah, no, that's a good point.
Things were like 50 inches on the walls. It was never huge,
I mean, that's really the future. You're talking Star Trek. I wasn't quite going 100 years into the future. I'm talking about the next 5 to 10. But
I take the future where I can get it, I guess. What do you think about it, Danielle, when it comes to moving towards this big format of the world?
Well, I mean, if you look at my parents, they don't have Netflix, they don't have Hulu, they don't have Disney Plus, they don't have Prime. They're as old school as it gets. And my father has a smartphone, but he doesn't really have any apps on it. I mean, I'm still trying to get them to download Zoom. And furthermore, let's see, had a train of thought and I lost it.
That's all right. Well, I mean, and that's understandable too. Trust me, I'm 100%. And that's why my parents love Apple and iPhone, simply because of the fact that it's one of those things where it's one button push. If they can do one button push and then they look for your name and they can push that button, that's the road. That's the yellow brick road they can follow. That's something they can live with. But there are times when I try to explain them to certain things. I'm sure we have all had issues where we said the word input 5 times in a row, and you're like, it's there, it's on the corner, it says input, so there's a lot of those things that kind of come about, and I definitely want to I want to give the benefit of the doubt, but I don't see this as a future, which is kind of weird because some of these shows, when I look at them, you see some cooking shows and some older people, and some of them are definitely going to be aimed at an older generation. How many of them are, a lot of them might be into Chrissy Teigen, but how many of them are, Will Forte fans before, seeing him in other stuff? Who saw him in 30 Rock or SNL or any of his Last Man on Earth? It's going to be an older generation versus a younger one. So,
but I'm totally with Danielle. My mom doesn't even know how to turn on the Blu-ray player I bought her 5 years ago. You know what I mean? She barely knows how to turn on her iPhone and no apps. I totally agree. So, but I don't think our parents are the generation Katzenberg's going for, clearly. And so to your point, Derek, you know what I mean? My mom doesn't even know who Chrissy Teigen is, let alone probably John Legend. So, that's not, they're going for a younger generation. I guess my question is probably, is there enough in that demographic financially and attention-wise to keep a platform like Quibi going for decades? I don't know.
I don't know either. I will say though that John Legend and Chrissy Teigen were on the Hallmark Channel, so if your mom is into that on Christmas, she might know who they are.
My mom's pretty hip. She might know that. That wasn't fair.
I gotcha.
Yeah, if they were on Hallmark or Lifetime, my mom would know who everyone is, because that's all my mom watches.
Yeah,
no. Masked Singer. That's how my mom knows them. My mom loves the stupid Masked Singer.
Well,
going back to Quibi and all that, with the deluge of content, like right now you've got CBS All Access 60-day free trial, Showtime 30-day free trial. HBO has select programming available until the end of April. There's just so much to watch.
Yeah.
And we pass over this 5 days that I'm not going to be able to watch anything. It's like afterwards, let's binge through seasons of Beat that I did not get a chance to watch, binge through both seasons of Succession, and by then, it may be the end of April, it may not be the end of April.
Right.
There's just too much out there.
There is too much out there, but there is a lot of people now who are definitely landlocked and they need the options to get to every demographic. It's just like cable channel. You look at a cable channel and you think, who is that channel for? Well, it must be for somebody. Somebody must be watching it somewhere, and they must be enjoying the hell out of it because it's still here and they're still selling ads. So it's one of those things where I question it, but I know someone out there has to be making money for it to still be going on and still having content, unless somebody has a free rights music channel and a free rights movie channel, which there are online, but not on cable as far as I know. So, well, thank you very much. I just want to kind of touch on that since we're in the topics for there. As we start, let's go into who I have on the show with me right now. So let's start with Danielle. First of all, film critic with Solzman at the Movies, a member of many critics associations. I didn't know how many critics associations out there. I was watching all the ones you're part of. It's awesome. Also, aspiring comedy writer who trained with Second City too, correct?
I studied at Second City.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's a good place to begin. And any great story when it comes to comedy kind of starts with Second City or Groundling. So that's very, very cool. On the other side, we have Jami. Jami, currently an entertainment reporter with M Time China. Red Carpet Pro, I've seen on carpets all over, as well as Danielle. And then managing editor for Relatively Media's IamRogue.com was in his past, as well as you were with MovieWeb.com too in the past too. So
member of the Hollywood Critics Association.
And, Hollywood Critics Association. Danielle with BFCA, now CCA.
Publishers Guild Award Journalist of the Year.
Wow. I need more awards.
International Media Award 2019 winner.
That's awesome. Do they have a name for you in China? Is there like do you have a special name or anything for you in China that's
No, they call me by my name. Yeah, by Jami.
I gotcha. Well, that's a good way to go too. Well, thank you again, gentlemen. Today we're gonna have a lot of fun topics to go over. Some movies we love, some movies we don't exactly like. Also, there's a lot of movies out there that are we used to do it more often, where we had the same movie that came out at the same time almost, and we had to kind of decide where our dollar went. And we're gonna go over that as well. But when we start, let's go into this first question, which you both kind of answered oppositely, which was, does a film's budget adjust perception of the film prior to seeing it? Now, Jami says yes, it does, and Danielle says no. So, Jami, let's start with you. Why does a film's budget adjust your perception a little bit too? And I'm not saying in a bad or a good or bad way where you take a hard standpoint on it, but there's things that can, adjust your perception. It's just the way it is in life. So, what's your thought?
100% agree, and I mean, I think that's great that it doesn't change your perception, Danielle. I wish I could be more like that. I think that, you go into a Marvel movie, an Avengers movie, Star Wars, there's certain expectations. I mean, I think expectations often in this industry can sink or swim, right? But, you have certain expectations for those bigger movies. And I think I might have less expectation going into, off the top of my head, a Jojo Rabbit or a Dolomite Is My Name than I do with knowing that it's a big budget. And then on the flip side of that, even like a Tarantino's Once Upon a Time, there were huge expectations for that. The budget wasn't, I think, wasn't like a Marvel movie, but it was a good sized budget for Tarantino. You have Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio. So I think I think there's less leeway for a movie like that. It's got to be good. You know what I mean? And I think when you have high expectations, when you have a budget like that, then the movie's got to be good. And maybe you have a little bit more leeway with a lower budget movie, then you have less expectations going in, and you can walk out going, yeah, it's all right. I kind of like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's the perception. It's about expectations to me, about what the film can actually deliver. And, you know, we're all in the industry of raising those expectations and talking about them constantly. You know what I mean? Like, is Kathleen Kennedy doing a good job with Lucasfilm? Blah, 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 you know, all that kind of stuff. And so I feel like it's your opinion. But I feel like I'm not weighing in on that. But I feel like there is it's just so much is written on the expectations and the perception, and we know so much about the industry now in a way that even I think, you know, maybe in the 90s even, or the early 2000s, there wasn't, because of what social media has done over the last few years.
I agree. Like, those are all valid points. Danielle, what's your rebuttal on this? Why does a film's budget not sway you in any way, really?
Well, I mean, you've got your big budget films, you've got your low budget indies. I mean, either of them could have either a good script or a terrible script. I mean, you could have, if Roger Deakins is behind the camera, I'm expecting a beautiful film. And the budget has nothing to do with that. I mean, it's just the way it is. Deakins is one of the greatest cinematographers of all time. And then you could have a big budget film with terrible visual effects. I'm not speaking of any films in particular, quote unquote. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. I mean, for one, outside of anything from Disney, be it Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, I have stopped watching trailers outside of the trailers that Warner Brothers forces us to watch before press screenings. And I feel that I'm able to go into a film better, like knowing very little.
No, I agree with you. And there's a lot of those standpoints too, where it's like, you know, if someone does a good job, someone does a good job, is the way I look at it. And there's a lot of ways where that goes wrong, awry, or stays on point. And when you know, going to Jamie's point of the 90s, you know, how many of us said the words, it only costs this much, when we were looking at Clerks, you know, $25,000 for Clerks, and look at, it's winning all these awards, and it's a darling, you know, on the film festival circuit, which is where a lot of these the pricing, the budget comes into play too. You know, before there was Netflix to buy it, someone else had to buy it, and they had to look at the budget, and it had to make sense. So when I see those movies and the price it puts into it, you know, that's really where it comes into play of how hungry you are, is really where I look at the budget. Because when I see people who do film festival things or smaller budget films, I don't want them to necessarily you know, have to try to break the bank, but I want them to be inventive about it. Figure a way to make things work on the cheap, you know? Do it like a you know, a Dolomite thing, where he's like running around and making all these things happen beyond the, you know, if you have to make it work somehow, and you're smart about it, you have a good script, you have a good story, or you know, you have a good point of view, that's great, because it shows in your film. But then again, like you said, there's high budget films that are Michael Baying us to death. Sometimes is the best way to do it. I don't want to use his name as a term for it, but everyone understands it, you know? We're just Derek, explosion.
I think we're all in agreement. I think quality rises to the top. So if it's well done and great script and actors, and, you know, it doesn't matter what the budget is. Right. To Danielle's point, I just want to ask, like, you mentioned Roger Deakins. Did you have higher expectations for 1917 than The Goldfinch?
Well, 1917, I knew it was coming from Sam Mendes. I knew that Deakins had shot it. But with The Goldfinch, I mean, that was one that was originally on my schedule to see during Toronto. And then I started hearing all this bad buzz, and I'm like, yeah, I am not going to see that film during the festival. And it was opening the next weekend. So press screening in Chicago was out the window. But it was similar to Life Itself the year before. I was going to see it during Toronto, started hearing the bad buzz. I mean, and there's one with the star-studded cast.
Right.
A cast of that nature, from the creator of This Is Us, should not have done so poorly, and yet here it is. So, I mean, it did so poorly.
Because I think, like, with me, I had a higher expectation for Deacon's work in 1917 than I did in Goldfinch, based on Mendes and a lot of things, but the material, but also the budget. So I think it is something that can alter a perception, but we agree at the end of the day, it's either good or it's not. And the budget isn't going to really make a difference.
I mean, at the end of the day, I either like the movie or I don't like it.
Yeah. And I agree too. Really, I think the story lent for a lot more cinematic nature with 1917 as well, especially with the whole idea, the one-shot trick, where we're sweeping and making things, connect, which, if you have somebody who does it well as Deakins can, you're going to get something amazing. Even looking at the Goldfinch, I remember the trailer was, showing the explosion and all these things happening, and it was very cinematic, but then everything after that becomes quiet, still shots in rooms with really loud clocks. I mean, it just ends up being that way nonstop.
Well, and at the end of the day, it's what we're talking about. 1917 worked, Goldfinch didn't.
Right, but there was high hopes for that. It was a great book, and there was money behind it too. They put a lot of stuff behind it, so there should have been options. Ansel Elgort wasn't exactly a money maker. He still has he's got an area, but it's not exactly A-list material still. So, but he still delivers good good quality acting. So, when it comes down to it, I'm gonna say that both of you are right on this, because as much as I would love to say that the budget doesn't matter, it does matter in some senses, because we do expect something out of it, whether it's good or bad. And sometimes when they overspend, we definitely know it. Like, we definitely have the feeling that this should not have been spent on this. If they all just would have gave us $5 back each, we could have just left and not had to talk about this film at all. Like, it would have been better. So I think that's definitely one of those things that we all agree on. But on the film festival, as someone who loves film festivals, seeing a low budget film create something amazing is awesome. And especially with movies out there from like Blumhouse. Blumhouse, $7 million for The Invisible Man, which is nothing. $7 million, and then it made $100 million or something like that already. So there are ways to make money and still deliver good stories and interesting, alternatives too. So. All right, so closing that one, let's go to our next one here. And this is something that we're gonna kind of go into. And the reason I have people who are passionate about their thoughts on films, because we all enter a film differently, we all experience a film differently, and it could be as much as who you were with, what theater you watched it in, or just the frame of mind you saw it in. But somehow that kind of cements us going forward. So as we do that, we're going to start with this film. And this is a surprising film, as I saw the two different things. Like, I kind of threw it out there, but you never know. And this is I like or do not like, and that is Jurassic Park. So you know what? Let's start with since it's so critically loved, let's start with Jami's side. We have to start with yours and find out what it is about Jurassic Park that you feel should go extinct.
So I don't hate Jurassic Park. Let me just make that real clear. Like, I don't hate it. I think it's overrated. I don't see it as, I know a lot of people, especially from their childhood, really embraced it. I have to say, I've always I don't care about dinosaurs, right, from the beginning. Like, even as a kid, I've never really cared about dinosaurs. So even when I saw the movie as a kid, there's parts that do work, but I think that ultimately it doesn't have much of a story. I mean, Spielberg's making those dinosaurs look real, and Goldblum's performance is all you really have for me with that movie. I think the script doesn't completely work. Sam Neill was never a leading man. He wasn't a leading man in the 90s. He's not a leading man now. I mean, and it's clear Spielberg realized that, because he didn't cast him in the second one. He made Goldblum the supporting character, the lead. So I think that the movie holds up pretty good, because I think the effects were good and Goldblum. But short of that, I think my lack of interest in dinosaurs, along with sort of some of the shortcomings, I think, of the script. I also find I like I'm not a crazy Spielberg fanatic. I recognize he's probably the greatest director of his generation. And there are some of his films I really love. A lot of them are later ones. I think that he got into a phase where, and he's been accused of this, where he was emotionally manipulative. And I think Jurassic Park plays into his emotionally manipulative filmmaking period. So I always kind of was like, I don't see what the big deal about it is, but it's a good movie. I would say it's a good movie, but I don't put it in the great classic. I wouldn't even have it on my top 10 Spielberg list. If I had to make a top 10 Spielberg movies, It just wouldn't be on there. But I'd also have movies like The Post that probably a lot of people would not put on.
Right.
Say is one of his greatest movies, or Always, which I love. So, which no one ever talks about when they talk about Spielberg. It's almost been like that, like Always and The Terminal, for some weird reason, have been expunged from his resume. And they're not.
That's the beauty. Once you have a big enough name, they automatically take out the bad ones for you to make you look.
But they're not even as bad as like a Hook or 1941 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they're not that. The Terminal is not that bad. It's not that good, but it's not that bad. So, anyways, but yeah, that's my feeling. Again, I like Jurassic Park. I like it for Goldblum. I like it for the effects. That's where I end.
I gotcha. Well, we had your side, and you know what? Some of those points are very valid, and also you could see the personal opinions definitely delve deep in there as well. So before I get to my thoughts on that too, let's go into Danielle. What's your thoughts on Jurassic Park and why it is a classic and it should be in the top Spielberg top 10 easily? So.
Well, first of all, 1941 is not a bad movie. It's a good movie.
I actually agree with that too. I meant the consensus in the public eye. But I agree with you. Actually, personally, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, seeing Belushi and Aykroyd together, although they weren't really together as much on screen in that one, but Jurassic Park, a few years before it, The Land Before Time was one of the first films I ever saw on the big screen. So naturally, fell in love with dinosaurs. I had a stuffed a little foot on my bed for God knows how many years. But a film like Jurassic Park, you look at its legacy. You don't get good or bad, you don't get the Star Wars prequels out of it. You don't get all these films with amazing visual effects. You won't get photorealistic live action Jungle Book. I remember leaving the press screening the day after I saw Jungle Book, and I'm in an elevator with Richard Roper, and we're just talking about how visual effects have changed over the last 24, 25 years. It's unbelievable.
Good point. Good point.
A lot of the visual effects are definitely one of the things that changed. I think there was a trumpet that blasted when these visual effects came out, showing not only how good animatronics can be if you shot it right, but more importantly, what happens if the shark works? What do we get if the shark works and if we got the money and the technology is there? This is what we get. We get huge brontosauruses, we get T-Rexes, and Sam Neill being lifted and falling on the breath of a Triceratops. And we get, memes that last forever. But how many of us knew about velociraptors before Jurassic Park even came out as being an option, where we're like, oh my God, velociraptors are deadly. Did you know that? And dinosaurs are based on birds. And truth be told, I learned a lot about dinosaurs just from this movie alone, because it was all pretty factual and I was pretty happy with it, outside of the amber and getting the genome thing. But I have to say right now, I remember going to a theater, not a great theater either, but watching Jurassic Park, and that first opening scene where you don't see the velociraptors and the guy gets, the guy pulls in and you see everything rushing. Like, that jump scare was one of my first jump scares as a kid, when I remember seeing whoosh and it happened and you're like, oh my God, you see the whole audience jump. and you're just like, it just feels like I'm part of this. I'm part of this world. I'm so happy about it. And then after that, just the magic of everything he kind of rolled out too. And I know you were saying that you loved his later work too, but there's a lot, like I have to agree, there's a lot of great younger Steven Spielberg stuff that I do enjoy. I mean, Jaws alone, I mean, what are you gonna do? So
no, listen, Last Crusade, Raiders, I mean, I could pick a lot of movies early on too. I think there's sort of that middle period where he kind of lost me.
Right.
Amistad and some of that area.
No, and that's definitely one of those things where he.
Saving Private Ryan's on my TV almost every day in this quarantine, and that movie gets better every time I see it. So that actually probably would be my number one Spielberg is Private Ryan.
No, and
that should have won an Oscar for Best Picture.
That's one of the worst movies that got robbed. You know what I mean? Like when you look at the Oscars, I also look at Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Fiction, LA Confidential. But when you list the great movies of all time that didn't win Best Picture, I mean, it's got to be that one.
Yeah, and that's.
I don't know if you've seen Making Waves yet, but that's a documentary about sound designers, and they were. They have the sound designer who worked on Saving Private Ryan, and they're talking about that opening scene. And if you notice when you're watching the film, like during that opening where they're landing at Normandy, there is no music until late at the end.
Yep.
And I never noticed that until after I watched the documentary.
And that's one thing I really do enjoy. And that's one thing where this is a different topic for a different day, but I'm very not happy with digital downloads because we don't get the commentaries anymore. We don't get those things that should come packaged. If I'm paying the same price for a DVD Blu-ray, I should get the option to download the commentaries, and a lot of times they don't do that anymore. Sometimes
so
they do.
The commentaries, I know a lot of them will, and even on Disney Plus and stuff, will offer the features. You can see deleted scenes and bloopers and things like that. But I hadn't noticed. Have they gotten rid of commentary? Like that's not an option for Avengers or on Disney
digital
Plus?
downloads. I didn't see it as an option. I'll have to look and see. I don't know if I digitally downloaded because I feel
extra features still are, but commentary may have been. You may be right. They may have gotten rid of commentaries.
Right.
I think it really depends on the film.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons why I love physical media. Like if I want to watch the bonus features, I can watch the bonus features.
Right. No, I remember DVD when DVD came out and having those options. I can't tell you the amount of movies and TV shows I watched, and learning so much about the director and how the world works. And, whether it's, watching the first Hellboy and learning that Guillermo del Toro's hammers always move. Like he wants, sometimes he'll want to move even the slightest movement. It's always moving. Or recently on Vero, Zack Snyder just released a brand new commentary for Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. I watched that whole thing. It's very interesting. He talks about, the voice and the reason he did specific things. It doesn't make me love the movie anymore because I'm not a huge fan of the story as a whole and how it works. But it is interesting to see why he did the things he did and the thoughts he had, as well as his plan to make 5 movies going forward. So there was a lot of interesting stuff, involved in it. So I really did enjoy the film when it comes to having documentary as an option. But let's close up this right now. So Jurassic Park, as much as I want to agree with you, I'm sorry, Jamie, I can't. Like there's no way. There's no way in any world I don't
hate it. Again, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's just so much attached to that film, and not only that, like I said, the trumpet that was sounded when that film came out was just immense.
I no way am criticizing its legacy. I get it.
Right.
Like I get it. It's just not for me.
I understand, and so that's one of those things too. So Jurassic Park is a good movie, I think, altogether, and we're gonna stay on that standpoint. But as we move away from this, we're actually gonna go to another one. This is another one from Jamie again. You surprised me again because you gave me this little tidbit, and I was like, how, why, what? But you know what? I want to hear this argument. And we're not picking on you because there's definitely good opportunities in this film, but it's not necessarily the darling that a lot of people would want it to be, let's say. So Terminator Salvation. Is this a good movie? Now, this one we have to look at, and you know what? It had everything it needed to be an amazing film, And let's not look at the box office, but let's look at the film itself. So let's start off with you. Why is this film one of your favorite films? Why is this something that you just enjoy?
Let me correct a couple things. Not one of my favorite films. I do enjoy it. I do think it's a good movie. I think it's a great movie? No. It's the third best Terminator feature film, in my opinion. Now, that's not saying much because 5 and 6 were pretty terrible, and I don't like 3 at all. So, it's a little unfair to say it's the best of but to me, it's the third best one. I think that they really went into a direction that was ahead of their time. I think if the series now did the future war, that would be accepted better than it was 10 years ago. I think people they wanted another Schwarzenegger Terminator.
Right.
I think now we're sick of Schwarzenegger Terminators. We've seen that from the box office of the last 2 that he was in. And I know for me as a Terminator fan, and again, let me make clear, 1 and 2 is one of the greatest movies ever made. 1 is an incredible classic that set 2 off. Right. Everything else has been pretty much off the rails since then. Right. I enjoyed elements of the TV show, and I enjoyed elements of this one. Everything else to me was nonsense. That's not me saying this is the greatest movie of all time or a classic or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think the story was really good. I don't think it was executed well. McGee is not a good director. I think they could have done better with a better director. But Bale, I think, was great as John Connor. And I think the future war, seeing that story is something that I always wanted to see since we saw elements of it in the first movie and the second one. And I think it would be a great direction for them to go in now to really explore. And it's the only Terminator movie without time travel. And I think they've really, especially in the last 2, overplayed the time travel trope. Right. And so I enjoyed just seeing the war. Now, the only other thing I think they could still do with that is, remember, this was the future war from the John Connor point of view, who had gone through Terminator 2 and 3.
Right.
The John Connor we see in the future at the very beginning of the first Terminator is the original OG John Connor, right?
Right.
Who did not have time travel affect his life.
Right.
So there's still that thing they could do, maybe, but I think most people are sick of Terminator altogether at this point. Well, but I really love and appreciate what they tried to do with it. Yeah. I think it was a good story. I like Bale. I like Anton Yelchin. I even like Sam Worthington. I don't think I've ever said that before. Moon Bloodgood is a wonderful actress who got some really good stuff. Bryce Dallas Howard. So I don't think it's as good as it could have been. But if we're using the sort of sliding scale of Terminator sequels, I got it on number 3.
First and foremost, with all the time stuff they've done, you said he was the first one who went through it all, and there had to be a first one. But I don't even know if that's true, because he sent him back because he knew he was going to be part of it, right?
Did he? Did he?
I don't know. And that's what I'm saying.
No, I don't know that Christian Bale
know
sent
that.
Anton Yelchin back because he knew.
Right.
But I don't know if the first one did. That depends on how you believe time travel works.
Right. And how everything happens one way or the other, the echoes of things. And there has to be a first time, or did there, or, I don't know. That's a scientific thing. But I will say, this film did have everything going for it. I think one of the big things that definitely made it a little sour was the Christian Bale blow up that happened during this filming, correct?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I wasn't.
Yeah, so I mean, there was definitely there. But let's move on for this to go. So Danielle, why are you not a fan of this film?
It's just not memorable. That's what when the most famous thing that happened with it is Christian Bale blowing up on set, which was a subject of a good improv show I saw right around that time it happened. But it's just one that I don't remember all that well. And I watched everyone leading into the Emilia Clarke film that I ended up not watching.
Well, I was going to ask, do you, I'll let me concede your point. It's not a good movie. Where do you put it in the scale after 1 and 2? I'm assuming you like 1 and 2 best. So
I like 1 and 2 and the new one that just came out last year.
You like Dark Fate?
Now that's a different one altogether, because I feel like that was the digital nail in the coffin for this franchise.
I agree.
And that's the one where we got tired of everything, because they just threw everything into it. It's what kind of transformer can we make, and what kind of oversaturation of time travel and everything else can we throw at it?
Fate came before Genesis. I wonder if it would have done better.
Maybe. There's a possibility.
Probably. I mean, Genesis pretty much was the one that it just didn't do so well, and it wasn't that great from the reviews I read.
But Dark Fate's the same. Dark Fate, I think, actually may have done worse box office than Genesis.
Yeah. Well, I will say this right now. The one thing I know for sure is this is definitely one of the nails in the coffin that killed Sam Worthington's career. He's going to come back in Avatar, but this is definitely one of the things that kind of destroyed him along the way.
But keep in mind, I believe that Terminator Salvation came out before Avatar. But I believe he was working on Avatar before he shot Terminator.
There was probably a 2-year period when he was still hot and everything was going, and then everyone saw that everything he did and that came out. And don't get me wrong, Clash of the Titans, and there was like box office stuff was great.
I don't disagree with you. Sam Worthington's career is in the toilet.
Yeah.
But I don't think Terminator did it because his biggest success came after Terminator. Right. His problem was the moves he made after Avatar was released.
Yeah. Well, let's move on for this one, because as much as I want to, I'm actually going to rewatch this one again and give it a little more.
You got to admit, I made a good case.
You made a good case for it, but the problem is that I like from Dark Fate. Unfortunately, has a bad taste in my mouth as well. And I will say that I actually enjoyed the TV show that was on Fox. Summer Glau was amazing. I thought it was great. Frankly, I think TV would have been the best option for this franchise just moving forward. If someone would have put the money behind it to do it correctly, if HBO had done it or Netflix, like in this day and age, amazing. So they would have paid attention to it. But when it comes down to it, Terminator Salvation is not really the on my list of things I would recommend in any day or form. So sorry, Jamie, this one is also going to go to the other side too. It's just the way it is. So, all right, let's wrap this up and go to our final here. As I mentioned before, sometimes you have 2 movies that come out around the same time. This happened a lot in the 90s where they looked almost exactly alike. Someone just copy and pasted, and you wonder, did a script get loose? And someone just said, make it. They're going to make it. We're going to make it, Oh, Jack Warner's making that, then we're going to make it over here at Paramount. Or, Spielberg making that, then we're going to make our own version here too. And this one we're going to do is one of the biggest ones when it comes to that. And that is the best asteroid movie, Armageddon or Deep Impact. Both these movies delivered something that was interesting and different while trying to destroy the planet as a whole. And they both gave us leavings that kind of either left a good or bad taste in our mouths. So let's talk about these two. Now let's see here. Jami, you are on the Armageddon train, and Danielle, you say Deep Impact is the way to go. So before I give my feelings on this, because I've delved into it and tried to figure out my thoughts, and let's start with you, Danielle. Why is Deep Impact the better asteroid movie out of these two?
Well, it's been a while. It's been since the 20th anniversary when I watched both of them. The same day that pretty sure I also watched Big Lebowski in theaters. But Deep Impact, it's not a Michael Bay movie, for one. I love the scene in Armageddon when they're singing John Denver. But let's see, Deep Impact, it's the one that feels the most realistic.
I agree with that. And you know what? There's a lot of things that were positive about that film too. First and foremost, astronomers love the film Deep Impact more because it's more scientifically accurate, which of course Michael Bay is on the other side of that equation. So duh, there's no way that's not going to be true. Anytime he can choose not to be scientific and more, blustery, he's going to go blustery 100%. It actually grossed $350 million. So it wasn't necessarily bad. It actually made more money its first weekend than Armageddon did the first weekend. The problem is the longevity of it and what people wanted. The characters I think it was more about character when it came down to Deep Impact for me. I think it was based on the human a reaction to what's going to happen. What will we do? How would humanity survive? Morgan Freeman is the president, and you have these families going through, and it's the questions of what would happen and how it goes along. So I think those are really the things that come about when it comes to Deep Impact. It's a more somber and serious tone for sure when it comes to the film and what it made us, I guess, contemplate along the way too. So getting away from Deep Impact, let's go to the other side. Let's go to the explosive side, and that is Armageddon. So, Jami, tell me why Armageddon you feel is the better way to go when it comes to asteroid destroying Earth type film.
Well, let me make it clear. They're both stupid movies. They're both stupid movies based on stupid ideas. Armageddon knows it's a stupid movie, and it leans in hard to being a stupid movie. Deep Impact thinks it's going to get nominated for an Oscar. But Armageddon knows what it is, and it goes full bonkers. I mean, we're talking about commentaries. I'm sure you both have listened to the Ben Affleck Armageddon commentary.
Right.
Classic, where he actually, kind of picks apart the movie and is like, I said to Michael Bay, wouldn't it be easier to teach astronauts how to drill than teach a bunch of drillers to be astronauts? So, I think and I'm a big Bruce Willis fan. That was the height of Bruce Willis, late 90s. And the cast, you have Owen Wilson as like the ninth lead, it really great was Michael Clark Duncan and who else is in that movie? Billy Bob Thornton and Steve Buscemi. I mean, it's a pretty awesome cast. And Affleck, of course. It's a pretty awesome cast. Now, it has its issues. I hate the stupid Liv Tyler animal cracker scene. I mean, it's gross and it's just disgusting. And I can't ever listen to that stupid Aerosmith song. I'm from Boston. I liked Aerosmith until 1998. After this movie came out, it killed me on Aerosmith. But besides all that, the action is good. I mean, Michael Bay, it was sort of at the height of Michael Bay's crazy action stuff. And again, they're both bad movies. But if I had to choose a better bad movie to watch, I would watch Armageddon just because it's bonkers.
Right. And that's one of the things that
fun,
I think...
And fun. Not good, but fun.
No, and that's one of the things, too. To rewatch a film, I think the fun factor definitely needs to be there. Armageddon, which started out with a budget of $140 million, grossed $550 million at the end. This is one of Michael Bay's, standpoints. He puts a flag down. This is who I am. And not until Pain and Gain or something was the last time we saw him try not to be that for a little while, at least. That was the first time in a while where he was just like, you know what? I'm not going to destroy. I'm not going to, transform. I'm not going to do all these things. I'm going to kind of try to deliver a story. So that was definitely it. It was space. It was explosions. We had a gun in space. Why do we have a gun in space? I know they made fun of it.
Isn't that the line in the movie? Yeah, why is there a gun in space?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they had a gun in space, and that's one of those things that they're bringing out. And they're like, well, I understand it too, and there was a lot of creation of things too.
That's where Nolan got the idea for Batman's Tumblr. I'm totally made that up.
It could be, and it could have been the same production team who put it together. When you get the high priced people who have successes, which this film was, you tend to bring them on for other opportunities and things like that too. So, and like you said, it has a huge cast comparatively. Everyone else in the other cast at the time, especially, was B casting. This film, when I look at it, the critic older version of me loves Deep Impact because it delivers a story. It delivers human interaction. They save the special effects until the pivotal moments when things need to go insane or go crazy. I mean, this is the one where we saw, I want to say not until 2012 did we see something where it destroyed so much and really like the explosions really kind of affected people just watching them the first time. That was one of the ones where you saw them and you thought, wow, they held out and that's why. And so it's more of a, like I said, the somber and the all the actors give a lot, but it's just not as flashy. And then on the other side, the Armageddon. You know, Armageddon is just the fun. I don't want to think. I don't want to think. And you know what? Don't give me fake science facts anyways. So let's just watch a bunch of, you know, essentially oil drillers being shot into space, and everyone gets their own little lines. Like you said, we had, you know, Owen Wilson, Steve Buscemi, and don't forget about Bob, who's Angelina Jolie's ex,
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton, that's who it is. Billy Bob Thornton down on the ground. You know, he's given a hell of a performance too. But truthfully, he was probably the best performance of the whole damn film. But at the time, he was taken very seriously, and that's why we paid more attention. I feel like he was the only one who actually gave a cred. Everyone else was just like, dune buggies, let's go, yay! And so, you know, I really did enjoy both films, like I said. But the younger, more fun part of me wanted to love Armageddon more. And if we go back to the idea of watchability, it's just Armageddon. Armageddon's just a winner. It just is. After you watch Deep Impact, there's a lot of great stuff in it, but it's just one of those things that once you watch it, you're like, I watched it, that's great. But it's not going to be something that we take with us or carry with us still. I mean, just to the point that Aerosmith's song makes us think about the movie, you know. So, you know, that Bob Denver song makes us think about the movie. You know, there's so many different reasons for us to call back to it. In the same sense where you were saying you just don't remember Terminator Salvation, it's hard to remember a lot of Deep Impact things unless you really think about it and try to. But Armageddon floods back into you one way or the other. So I think Armageddon's definitely going to be the better Asteroid movie. It just is. I mean, it just delivers. If sci-fi is fun or it needs to have that moment, that's where we are. That's what the movie is. So Armageddon for sure is the winner. So thank you very much, Jami and Danielle. Before I let you go, though, let's ask really quickly, what are you guys watching right now? What is it that you guys are watching, and what should people be watching too? Like, give your thoughts. Let's start with you, Danielle.
Well, over the last week, I binged through Picard, especially since CBS All Access offered that free trial, and I finally had a chance to watch it. I've been doing more reading than watching things, to be honest. I've been reading about the early studio moguls like Warner Brothers, Barry Cohen. I just started a biography on William Fox, who's long forgotten in history, and he's probably rolling over in his grave thinking about what's happened to his name.
All right, so Danielle, going for Picard, which I love. Big fan of the show. I think it's done well. I think CBS All Access is actually delivering great content. Discovery is really good too. So I feel like both of them are delivering something that is very much on the Star Trek point. Like it's exactly where it needs to be. Jami, where are you living? Where is your what is part of your world right now, and what should people be watching?
Yeah, I saw Picard, loved it, absolutely loved it. I'm not like a huge Trekkie, you know, I'm more of a novice. I like the Star Trek world, but I absolutely loved Picard, and I'm shocked that a lot of my hardcore Trekkie friends hate it. And I don't quite understand that because I love it. I just thought it was so great, but
right.
I get it. It's not what they thought Star Trek should be. So I really like Picard. I liked the Mark Wahlberg Spencer for Hire movie, Spencer Confidential.
I enjoyed that too, yeah.
I'm from Boston. My dad was a big Robert Parker Spencer fan, so I grew up reading those novels. They're really easy to read if you're a young kid too. They're not like, you know what I mean? They're pretty
right.
easy reads. So I read a bunch of those and loved the TV show when I was growing up. The movie is sort of the Mark Wahlberg big screen adaptation that would have been in theaters 15 years ago.
Right.
And so they change a lot of things. I mean, they basically completely make up the whole story. It's not, they change a lot of stuff from the novels, but it kind of all works like for a Mark Wahlberg action movie. So yeah, I liked it. I would recommend that. I saw the stupid Tiger King thing everyone's talking about. That's like watching a train wreck. I mean, I think all those people are horrible human beings, and I'm ashamed of myself for watching it, but I did very much enjoy it. And you know what's really good is I have the DC universe, and I liked Titans season 2 was much better than Titans season 1.
Season 1 was horrible. It was, oh my God, it was so bad. I'm sorry.
The first episode of season 2 should have been the last episode of season 1. That was a weird way they did that cliffhanger.
Okay, so you're telling me I should catch up on season 2 because I really hated season 1.
I mean, the first episode of season 2 is the last episode of season 1. Why they broke it up like that, I don't get it. Like, that was weird. Like, season 1, the first episode of season 2 is the ending to season 1. And then they just start a whole new thing. It's weird. But the other thing I'm surprised was I've been watching the Harley Quinn animated series. That's basically an X-rated version of Batman Brave and the Bold. Now, I don't know what executive at Warner Brothers thought that was a good idea, but it's bonkers crazy fun. Yeah. Like, I don't get who the audience is because it's literally an X-rated Batman cartoon.
Essentially, it's all the cosplayers who are already half naked, dressed as Harley Quinn.
Yes, that's everywhere. The audience. You're so right.
That's exactly the audience. That's 100%. Trust me, I recently had 3 Harley Quinn.
I dug it. I liked it.
When Birds of Prey came out too. I mean, Katie Cuoco is the voice of Harley in this. People are a Big Bang Theory fan. And then going back
to great as Poison Ivy.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of great names, and so that's another thing that's going to be on there. So I will add Titans, and I will add Harley Quinn season 2, which I believe just came out right now as well.
Yeah, and I caught up on 1, and then 2's just started, but it's really good.
It definitely. I will make that part of my list, and then the problem with my Titan season 1, it let me down so much because Doom Patrol season 1 was so good. Was my issue too. Yeah, Doom Patrol, if you watch that, was fantastic. So closing up as myself right now, Westworld has been great. I'm a big fan of it. I already saw Picard as well. Westworld's been doing some amazing stuff. The whole HBO having Be Free thing is great because now I can have other people catch up on some great shows too. They gave some great comments on the fact that The Wire is actually being watched so much now because it's the one show everyone said they were going to watch. And now we all have free time, so let's all watch The Wire, which is great because it's pretty long too. And then the other thing on the book side, I'm actually really excited because hopefully in the mail coming to me right now is Val Kilmer's autobiography, which I'm expecting the next week or so. It's called. It's titled.
That's coming out.
I'm your Huckleberry, or I'm your Huckleberry, I believe is what it's called, and I am so excited to read this. I'm a big Val Kilmer fan. I've interviewed him a couple times. Such a nice guy. Everything that's happened to him is horrible, and I want to see how they integrate him into Top Gun. But it's going to be.
Eric, can I tell you a quick Val Kilmer story?
Sure.
Real quick. I was interviewing him at Comic-Con years ago, and Tony Scott was still alive, and there were even rumors of a Top Gun 2 back then.
Yeah.
So I said to him, hey, there's rumors of a Top Gun 2. Would that be something that would interest you? And he talked a little bit about doing the first one, Tony Scott, and then he goes, hey, I even have a title. I have an idea for the title. And I said, what? And he looked directly in the camera. He had sunglasses on. He looks directly in the camera. He goes, Top Gun 2, Dogfight. And then he just walked away. He just walked out of the entire convention center, like the room we were in. He just walked away.
Now, was this for his video game at Comic-Con?
No, this was that
Twixt
Coppola movie. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I did a dual interview that same year. I did the same thing for him. My cameraman, we went and got posters. I got some posters for him to sign, Tombstone, of course.
Right.
And then my cameraman got Batman Forever. And my cameraman came up to him and said, Batman Forever was my favorite film ever. I owned all the toys. And he was like so honest with him. And then Val Kilmer was like, a lot of people say that. Because thank you. I tried hard. He was very, very honest, and it was a great moment too. So I really, hope to see how he comes back, and there's hopefully some options for him to do stuff. That last Michael Fassbender movie, The Snowman, was not a fun moment to watch with him in it. So let's hope for some better stuff. But you know what? I know you guys, you're busy. You got to go do stuff. So I want to thank both of you for being part of the show. I hope you guys had fun. This is definitely what this is all about. It's point counterpoint about fun topics that aren't politics, that aren't things that we need to take too seriously, and more importantly, they're open opinions, which is what I want, and that's what film is and what criticism is. It's our opinion. People trust us because we're honest in our opinion, and I think that's why you should follow who you love when it comes to it. So once again, Danielle, Jami, really quickly, just tell them where they can find you. Danielle, let's start with you. Where can fans find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook and Facebook under Solzy at the Movies, SOLZY. Twitter and Instagram, Danielle, SATM, and solzyatthemovies.com, SOLZY.
Fantastic. All right, and Jami, let's see about you.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Jami Philbrick, just my name, how it's spelled here. And then on Instagram and Twitter, it's Philbrick, FEELBROCK.
All right, and then they can actually watch some of the M Time stuff, right? You can translate the page and see stuff too.
Yeah. And especially if you read and speak Mandarin, check out mtime.com and on YouTube as well under mtime, and just Google my YouTube my name and you'll see all of it.
Thank you very, very much. I want to thank you so much for everything. So I want to go over so much more movies with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Danielle.